Let's go live.
Networks don't talk about it. Government can't tax it. But sports betting is a $200 billion a year business.
That's a major U.S. Supreme Court ruling that could open the door for legalized sports betting all across the country.
The Supreme Court is giving the green light for states to determine on their own whether they want to legalize sports gambling.
Tell Donahue his next pick is good for 20 grand, but I need him to guarantee a win, okay? I need a lock.
He's not that fucking good.
No, Tommy, he has to. All right, he has to, or else they're going to kill me. Do you realize this, Tommy? They're going to fucking kill me. I can't afford to gamble anymore. I need a fucking lock.
And locks we give. What is going on, everybody? It is Championship Sunday. We have finally made it. We've got 3 games left for the season. Just myself this week. I'm going to be joined shortly by my boy Stooley. We're going to talk a little college basketball. We'll chop it up with the college hoops slate in between both of our championship games, but obviously that's why we're all here. It is AFC NFC Championship Sunday. This is the culmination of a lot of long podcasting this year. Thank you for everybody that stuck with us. We did not miss a single week, so that was fucking awesome. I did not think that was going to happen, but shout out Joey keeping us on track, as well as Isaac, who is not going to be here this week. He is, I believe, laid up with his girl, so shout out Isaac. We are going to run through everything before we do some house cleaning stuff. We are going to start talking basketball, a lot more basketball. Hoop Drunk is going to start next week on Thursday. We're going to run all through February, three episodes per week. We'll be running through that. Usually going to have a Saturday morning. I don't think there's a Saturday morning I have that I don't have scheduled right now. I'm going to have a whole calendar set up with all of the updates. Speaking of updates, look at the app Lock Talk, LOCCTOCC on Apple and Google Play Store. We have personalized blogs now, so you can actually go on there, create your own blogs. I've done that already and been doing that. So definitely some great updates. Make sure you're on there checking out my plays, which I'll have up there shortly as we're going to run through them here first. Shout out Dan Koo last week. Koo was on last week, our second most viewed stream behind the Christmas stream. Terrific to have him on, sipping some bourbon. I will definitely be seeing him again very, very shortly. Let's keep it moving. Like I said, we've got Hoop Drunk coming next week. Not super sure exactly if I'm going to be live streaming that or if we'll be posting it. Hard to say, but yeah, it's an exciting time, man, and I'm about as ready to talk AFC Championship game as I can, because that's where we're going to start. We're going to start in the AFC Championship game. I'm going to run through injuries. I'm going to run through weather, spreads, first half, quarters, totals, all of it. I want to try to cover as much stuff as I can. Also run into props. Make sure I will have the chat up as well. Make sure you drop some picks in the chat if you have them. Let's get it cooking. Let's start with the AFC Championship game, man. In the AFC Championship game, we're talking injuries first. So on the Baltimore side, Marlon Humphrey didn't play last week. I talked about it. Very important. Obviously, didn't matter. They still came out. They took care of business against a much inferior Houston team. Rocky Sin still banged up, probably going to miss this week. He's most likely a game time decision. So they'll be mostly healthy in the defensive secondary. But obviously for the Baltimore Ravens, it all looking at the offense. Mark Andrews, full participant all week, coming back, activated from the IR. It's been 2 months since we've seen this offense with him, and the offense didn't really skip a beat, which is really impressive. Todd Monken's been just about as good as you could ask for the Ravens. This is going to set up probably the best tight end matchup we've had since 2019. We had Gronk and Kelsey back in the AFC title, but now we get Kelsey and Mark Andrews. When hopefully we're seeing a full Mark Andrews. I've heard talks about him being on a pitch count. I don't think pitch counts exist too much. We're going to talk about Pacheco as well a little bit later. Talking Chiefs side, injury report, not as much optimism. Joe Thuney and Trey Smith both missed time this week. Smith's going to play, but Thuney is out. So that's going to be a big one. Pacheco is banged up. He's got like a foot. I think he's got a sprained foot or a toe that he's working with. And Derek Nanandi is not going to play. Starting defensive lineman is out with a tricep. Injury-wise, we talked about Kansas City. Dr. Chow, who I've mentioned on this program many times, you have to be following Dr. Chow, Pro Football Doc, on Twitter. He is by far the best when it comes to getting your injury information. Even well before game day, he has his injury power rankings, and we talked about it. And that's why we were so high on Kansas City to come into this playoff, is because Kansas City was the most healthiest team that was left. That's not the case anymore. Unfortunately, Kansas City's gotten a little bit banged up, and the scripts kind of flip. Baltimore now comes into this one being the much more healthier team. It's going to be really, really tough. Baltimore's got a great front seven, and anytime you're a little banged up on that offensive line, Chiefs is going to be tough, especially with a banged up line and a banged up running back. And what sucks is, in a game like today, is we'll pivot to the weather. So weather-wise, it's going to be a shit show no matter how you cut it. It sucks. I typed this out when I was typing it out on Friday. It was 77 degrees in Baltimore, sunny. Sunday's calling for about 30 degrees less than that, 94% chance of precipitation. It's been raining all morning. They're going to get upwards of an inch. So if you don't think this is weather worth looking at, it definitely is. It's going to be wet and sloppy, very similar to what we saw San Francisco and Green Bay last week, and we know how that affected the quarterbacks involved. Let's talk about how one thing that I wanted to talk about. So home teams and their spikes. Last week, we heard about it on the broadcast with Fox, that San Francisco was swapping out spikes on the sidelines because they were surprised at how it's been. Kansas City is going to show up with the longest spikes you can expect. They've already played in 2 shitty games. I don't think Kansas City gets affected by the weather. The Ravens, who, look for the fast, quicker plays, that's going to slow down this offense. I think it actually works a little bit in Kansas City's favor. And you have to talk about that when you're looking at a team that is now a 4-point dog. It was teetering on 4.5. I think it's sitting at 4. First half line sitting 3.5 or 3, depending on your book. First quarter, you're looking at a half point. So you're more or less just picking a winner in the first quarter. I'm among many people that teased Kansas City out to 10 in this one. I don't love the spread at +4. I'm actually going to be sprinkling, and I already sprinkled Kansas City on the money line on this one. They're almost +200 on the peer-to-peer books. I waited for a long time, and this is going to sound super contradictory, but when you're betting games like this, you're betting it exactly how you think it's going to go. When you only have 2 games, you have to figure out game state bets. And we're going to talk about game state bets in a little bit. One that I do think is going to be a little bit of a contradictory when you're sprinkling Kansas City money line is the Ravens first half. So I have the Ravens first half -3, ended up getting it on a player to player at -108. I know 3.5 is like -115 in some books. So make sure that you're doing your shopping accordingly. The reason being, Baltimore was the league's best team. They were 14-4 against the spread in the first half this season. Coincidentally, the Chiefs were just 2-7 against the spread on the road in the first half this year. I think that's definitely a trend worth mentioning when you're talking about 2 teams. Obviously, the Ravens want to start fast. The Chiefs want to start fast. One of these teams actually has the ability to start fast. I don't think Kansas City has that ability to kick it into high gear and run up some scores right away. I think they're more of a ease their way into the game, figure out the opponent, and then attack in the second half. Whereas the Ravens, I think they come into this game, they are 4-point favorites. They are at home. This is kind of, the weather kind of shifts their way, being a run-first team, even though, like I said, Todd Monken really likes to pass. But I do think it leans to the Ravens out of the gates. If you wanted to play the first quarter line, you're expecting the Ravens just to start fast. They weren't great covering first quarter lines. Second most profitable team, though, when you take them on the money line in the first quarter. So definitely, if you're going to pay up, I would say just play the money line, get your push money back at a 0-0, 6-6, or a 7-7 game, and take the Ravens if you want. We'll talk about, actually, if you wanted, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, there is another first half line that I think you could pair that with. I did not, but I do think it is something that might be worth taking a look at as we get into this. Let's talk a little bit about the total. So the total in this one is very, very interesting. 44.5 with rough weather. My first inclining was under. I don't think that's a very sharp way to play it just because of the weather. Let's kind of get into it, because nobody got rich betting overs in Kansas City and Baltimore this season. KC overs were just 6-12. Baltimore was about 50-50. I lean under in this one, especially with the weather. What's up, Huff? Good to see you, brother. If you try to figure out the first half total, don't These teams are both 9-9 on first half totals this season. No reason to put yourself in a box with a bet that early. Anytime now I see the first quarter line, or total sitting around 7. Shout out my boy Keeks, who is sniping all over 7s that he can find on any football game that he can find. Been doing great with that. But I have to give it a look. But KC, they went over the first quarter total just 5 times in 18 games. I don't think, like I said, I don't think it's their game plan to go fast. I think it's their game plan to slow this game down out of the gates. I'm going to lay off. But the one thing that kind of took my eye is the team totals. So looking at the team totals in this one, 24.5 and 19.5. Now, personally, I think one's too high, one's too low, but I'm not going to end up betting both team totals. I think that's just a weird way to do it. I look at 24.5 as a lot of points for Baltimore. I think Kansas City deserves a little bit more respect. Defensively, they only allowed over 24.5 once, and it was against my Packers. It was on the road. It was a weird game. I understand that the Ravens are great, and their offense puts up 30 like it's their day job, but it's sloppy conditions. I think it's a defensive, preface game. I do expect, like I said, I do expect this thing to start very, very slow. I don't see a game state where Baltimore is running up anything. Why would you run up anything if you're in the lead? You're going to sit on the lead. Kansas City over 19.5, you could probably talk me into if they're playing from behind. But if you're playing from behind, you're in a bad spot already. That's why I'm just going to sprinkle the Kansas City money line. I do think you could totally talk me into over 19.5. Not a chance I'm betting first half team total over 9.5. I think actually, if anything, you could probably get some pretty decent odds betting the Kansas City first half team total under 9.5. It's not going to be anything that I'm betting. Baltimore, on the other hand, they have 12.5 for their team total in the first half. Nothing that really, really concerns me out of those first half team totals, but I am putting a unit, and it's my second biggest bet of the day. I've got under 24.5 for the Ravens. I do think that Kansas City does a relatively good job slowing down a really, really, really good offense. So it'll be interesting to see how this thing starts, and it could be completely opposite. Watch, this thing's going to come out. They're going to score 2 touchdowns right away, and my shit's going to look caked. That's just how it works. Let's run to props because there's a lot that I want to get into for props in this game. I have 6 bets, I think, going in this game alone, so that is super exciting. Let's talk about passing yardage. If you want the passing yardage props this week, you can have them. I will not be doing them. Baltimore, they didn't toss the ball around a whole lot last week. They didn't have to. I don't see their game plan this week really emphasizing the pass. I think they look at this defense and see we can attack them on the run. Both defenses, 2 of the best in the league against the pass. I think it's 6 and 4 right now as far as rankings go. And then, like I talked about it before, Baltimore is getting about as healthy in the secondary as they've been in a long time with Marlon Humphrey back. If Mahomes gets behind, which, again, we talk about game state, I can absolutely see where somebody values his number at 244.5. However, he's not putting up 250 like he used to just once in his last 4 games. With Pacheco a little bit banged up, I think you have to use the pass game to not lean on him as much. I'm just not sure how much success they're going to have in the pass game. The one that stood out to me and the one that I'm actually betting is a passing prop. It's Mahomes over 36.5 passing attempts. He's cleared it in 4 of his last 6 games, 11 times this season. Like I said, you have to take some of that workload off of Pacheco this week. You cannot be just one-dimensional. Looking at what Mike said here in the chat, told myself 3 years ago, if you get Chiefs close to a pick 'em, take them. I know Baltimore is better this year. Dude, I'm in the same boat. I'm not going to be here sitting here Monday morning being the guy that did not take the Kansas City Chiefs when they had 4 points and had this fat of a money line. That's why I'm sprinkling. And I do think, and it's a very true thing. We talk about the Chiefs defense. The Chiefs defense is as good as they have ever been. I don't think I remember a Chiefs defense being anywhere near this. They're top 5, pretty much no matter how you cut it. I think you could argue they're top 7 in some spots, but I'm looking at they're showing Packer Vikings. I don't know why there's so much Packer shit. Packer Vikings, I get it, NFC North, but anyways, back to what we were talking about. Chiefs defense is way better than we've ever seen it. I don't think there is a Chiefs defense that you can look back at any of their Super Bowl teams, honestly, any of their Patrick Mahomes teams in general, and say you would take that defense over this defense. But they are going against, and I have to say it, and you cannot, as much as we want to say, yes, this is a Kansas City defense that's incredible, we have to also give flowers to that Baltimore offense, because the Baltimore offense is not the same Baltimore offense that we've seen in years past. They have a way to move the ball through the air. They have targets. We're going to talk about one of those targets when we get into the receiving props that I really like. And you're getting Mark Andrews back. So it's not going to be simplistic if you are the Kansas City Chiefs. But like I said, when we're talking about passing totals, I don't love the yardage, but I am going to take Mahomes over 36.5 attempts. Let's talk rushing a little bit, because I did talk a lot about Pacheco. He is a little bit banged up. His total's in the mid-60s. I think Vegas knows he's going to be on a little bit of a pitch count. I was vocal all season about laying off Patrick Mahomes' rushing attempts. I don't know if that's the right way to do it. He's now had rushing yardage, or rushing his longs of 28 and 24 in the postseason. So take that if you would like. I'm not going to tout that bet, but it is a pretty good one. On the Baltimore side, when you have Edwards and Hill, I find it really difficult to handicap with two running backs like that. I don't think there's a certain edge to either guy. If you take anybody, it's got to be Lamar. Lamar had 11 carries, 100 yards last week, 2 touchdowns. They talked about activating his legs. Activating his legs is huge, whether it's getting him out of the pocket, running designed runs. We saw designed runs for Baltimore, which we didn't see a lot of this season. It was kind of frustrating if you watch Baltimore games. For people that maybe were being square and betting Lamar Jackson, like some of us, you saw that they didn't have the designed runs. Those came back. So Lamar this week, his total is 64.5. I don't know how much I love it. I would lean over 10.5 rushing attempts, but I really actually, if you're going to bet a Lamar, I would say over 17.5 is his longest rush. He's cleared that rushing long in 4 straight games. I'd strongly consider that. I'm probably going to use that as a prize pick square this week, or an underdog or something of the sort. Should be really, really interesting. Let's talk about the receivers, because in this game we have receivers, we have tight ends, we have a plethora, we'll call it, of guys that we're going to run through. Travis Kelce is obviously the one that we all talk about. I had Travis Kelce over 6 receptions last week in a prize pick. That was the last leg, and the dude ended with 5, still had 2 touchdowns. I think if you were to take anything Travis Kelce wise, you could probably get away with betting over 63.5 receiving yards, pairing it with the over 5.5 receptions, which is juiced beyond belief. I think you can get it right around that, like plus 130, 140, maybe a little bit more. I forget how that exactly shook out when you paired them up together. But the real question is, it's going to pertain to the weather again. I don't know if I like anybody's receiving yards total. I don't know if these teams stretch the field. It's going to be a really interesting situation. The one guy I did want to talk about is we have great tight ends on both sides. And I mentioned before, I have one guy that I'm kind of zeroing in on. It's going to be Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers, I think, has a great week this week. Over 4.5 receptions is plus money right now in pretty much every single book. I don't see a world where he does not see the ball 4 times. It's a half unit play for me. When we're talking about Zay Flowers, so in the past, we've had Baltimore teams that have gotten not really to this point, but have came close. And what has been kind of the number one deterrent has been their lack of passing game. If Baltimore gets behind in this game, I do not get nearly as concerned as I have in years past. I think guys like Zay Flowers, having Odell Beckham Jr., bringing back Mark Andrews, having guys out of the backfield, Hill and Gus can both catch the ball out of the backfield. The more I talk about Baltimore, the less confident I am in any of my Kansas City holdings. But yeah, I think when it comes down to with the weather and everything like that, if you're going to be betting anything in the world of passing props, receiving props, I don't think you go yardage. I think you go receptions. I think you go rushing attempts, passing attempts. You could talk me into passing completions, but we saw it in San Francisco, a lot of drops last week. That was really, really tough to kind of handicap and keep it going. So I don't know how much else I have to say about this game. We are, from a teaser standpoint, you're not going to be teasing Baltimore. Anybody that's teasing Baltimore, and I'm looking at it now, KC is moving out to 4.5. Let's do a little live line research here. Caesars, Bet Rivers, FanDuel, these are all in Illinois. DK sits at 4. These are all now 4.5 up to 115. Somebody's got to be monkeying with these. 4.5 is so much. If it gets to 5, I'm probably on it. And right now, let's just, for the sake of what we're doing, we talked about peer-to-peer a little bit. Let's do a little comparison before I jump into college basketball bridge with my boy Stooley. I want to talk about Bet Openly and Cut and all these apps that are so solid when it comes to your lines, and getting better lines is so important, especially in such a marginalized situation that it is with sports betting where the markets are just nuts. So right now on Bet Openly, looking at this one first, we'll get Cut involved as well. Minus 4.5 for the Ravens is plus 104. You can get plus 4.5 at minus 104. Now, my favorite thing to do on Bet Openly is go in here and see, what if I want to kick that to 5? If I want to kick that to 5 and get my 5, it is minus 112. Let's play devil's advocate. Let's get weird. I want to get out to 6. You can get Chiefs plus 6 at minus 132. I'm betting it. I'm doing it right now, actually. I did not think, with the lines, so the lines have moved because the Ravens were flipped. The Ravens were minus 104 when I looked at this morning. So we're slowly getting closer and closer to this game time. I don't know if I love where it's sitting, but that is out there. If anybody wants that, Kansas City plus 6, minus 132, you can get Ravens minus 6 for plus 132 on the opposite end of that. I'll probably... we'll see if I tweet that out. That's probably going to get picked up anyways pretty quickly, as they always do on game days. Let's talk about the totals. So right now on Bet Openly, they are showing totals in this one at 44. So 44, they're even on either side at plus 100. You got to think under. But I'm sticking with my team total. I got to talk to Gino. We got to get team totals on Bet Openly ASAP. That's going to be very, very exciting. Oh, this is the other thing. So first quarter, we talked about totals. If you wanted. 7. First quarter, over 7 in the Baltimore game for Baltimore, Kansas City is minus 130. So I'm going to text my boy because he may actually hop on that bet. We'll see if he actually does that or not. A little preview. We're going to talk about this after we talk about college basketball, but let's run through the lines that are available in the Lions and 49ers game. This one is interesting only in the fact that I know Bet Openly is ran and managed and heavily used by San Francisco bettors. If you are trying to take the Lions, you will not find a better line than Bet Openly. You will not find anybody taking your bets quicker than the guys on Bet Openly because Gino, Trev, they all love San Francisco. They're all going to completely eat all that up. And I took advantage of that last week. That was very nice of them to have those, have that set up for me. But yeah, right now on Bet Openly, we're looking at San Fran laying 7.5 at plus 104. You can get the Lions plus a touchdown and a hook at minus 104. Not going to find any lines like that out there. Total 51.5, and they've got it 100 on both sides. Lions money line is up to plus 285, and I didn't mention it before. Kansas City's money line is up to plus 194. So that's the line that I got in the Kansas City game. Just running through my action that I've got going, just a little recap because we did just run through a lot in a short period of time here. Baltimore under 24.5 team total. You're getting that about $1.20. It's going to be a little bit more expensive in your book. You're going to have to do some shopping on that one. I like KC. I'm sprinkling 0.4 units plus 194. And then I've got Baltimore laying 3 in the first half. That's a 3/4 of a unit play. 2 props in this one. Pat Mahomes over 36.5 passing attempts, about $1.15 for a half a unit. Zay Flowers also a half unit. This is plus 120, however. at over 4.5 receptions. And then, like I talked about, I've got KC in a teaser that we'll talk about the second leg in a little bit. Just waiting on my boy Stooley. I told him about 9:30, so he will be here probably shortly. I'm going to pull up all of our basketball lines and get into this. Isaac. Oh, God. He is awake, but not well. We'll see how that goes. Let's get up our odds for college basketball today. So like I said, as I transition into college basketball a little bit, we'll talk NFC Championship in a little bit, probably I would say about 9:45, 9:50. So if you want to come back and check that out, you're more than welcome. So for those of you that don't know, I've had Hoop Drunk running now as a podcast for, we're going on, I think, year 3 or 4. I'd have to look back. I do forget because we've had a lot of different iterations of it in the past. What it is, it's in the past been a daily show in March. We're going to actually extend that out to February and go 3 times a week in February this year, where I'm going to run through all the games for the day, and I'm going to run through all my picks for the day. College basketball is kind of my second love behind football. As much as I do love the Bucks and the NBA, the college basketball experience is a different one. And for those of you that partake, you totally understand how I feel in that scenario. But with my show, I really just want to hammer in, we're going to be using lines and odds from everywhere. So if you're like me in Wisconsin, communist Wisconsin, I'm going to try to open it up to our friends out of state that do have the ability, those south of us, north of us, west of us, and east of us, because we are now in a box where Wisconsin's the only one that doesn't gamble. We're going to try to run through everything and try to give the best line available in state and best line available nationally. I'll do the best that I can. The problem is Wisconsin sports books are a fucking joke at this point. They don't post their lines early. They don't have their limits are shit. I can barely get $200 down on a NFL football game, much less a college basketball game that they don't know anything about. I swear to God, if you walk up to the cage up at Oneida and you look at their guy in the face and say, "Oh, I'm gonna lay 15.5 on Wright State against IUPUI," you might as well have been speaking Spanish, because that man at the cage has no idea what you're talking about. My buddies and I, we have not had a chance to head down. I know there's a few guys that have, to Milwaukee. I'm very, very excited to see what they've built down at Potawatomi. For those that haven't had a chance, they are expanding what they currently have. So they never had sports betting before. Now they've got the kiosks, and then soon they're actually going to be taking the Northern Lights Theater, and they're going to be renovating that into like a Vegas style sports book. So that's going to be super interesting. I think we're going to go down there for championship weekend this year. March Madness, or the first weekend of March Madness, falls in a bad weekend for me. With when you're marrying a teacher, you only get 1 week of vacation time in the spring, so that kind of blows. That casino bankrupted me the one time. Dude, that casino bankrupts everybody. They're absolute trash. I've never seen a man walk out of Potawatomi a winner. I think that's a fact. I see my boy in the queue. We're going to add him to the stage. There he is. Let me get a double look. There she is. What up, Stooley?
What's going on, Jake?
What is going on with you on a Sunday morning, my friend?
Shit, not much. Trying to recoup my awful day yesterday. One of the literally the worst day I've ever had. Holy shit.
That. So for those of you that don't follow Stooley on Twitter, you got to. Guy goes through quite a bit of college basketball and went through the ringer yesterday and got smoked. And that happens. And that's why I wanted to bring him on. And actually, him getting smoked yesterday wanted me to bring him on even more, because if we know anything about gambling, there is nobody more dangerous to the sports books than the guy that donated his entire bankroll the day before. So we are looking to fire back on a Sunday. Stooley, we got a smaller slate today. We're just going to kind of run through the games. You'll probably have a lot more opinions on a lot of these, as I still have not fully switched over into my college basketball acumen, but obviously you've been all about it with your boys. Before we hop into that, let everybody know what you guys got going on, because the Pump Fake Pod has been very fun to watch.
Oh, well, appreciate you tuning in and everything. Yeah, I'm rolling with my guys, Michael Huffer and CBB Nick on Twitter, at the Pump Fake Pod. We've just been, trying to go through the slate, what we're liking, what we're seeing. We had a big Saturdays are our big shows. We get our buddy in there, and we go through probably at least 40, 50 games at least. We try to get through more, but time willing. But
When you got
Yeah,
156 games,
it was absurd. It was absurd.
I tell you, we talk about best weekends always being, oh, March Madness this, March Madness that. Walking into a sports book when you have 156 college basketball games in front of you, I don't care what weekend it is. If you've got action, like your card yesterday, for example, yeah, it's gonna be a day. So not as busy on Sundays, but I did still want to kind of run through because we do have a few decent games to talk about. One that I wanted you to actually talk me off the ledge and maybe talk me out of the bet because I do feel weirdly confident about it. It's going to be an 11 a.m. tip. Xavier. Why is Xavier 12.5? I know they just lost. I know they had an ugly loss. Am I stupid to think this is a bounce back spot for them against UConn? I know UConn's crazy, but 12.5 just seems like a lot of points.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this UConn team, they're not the same as last year. They're still really fucking good, but they're not what they were. They were a wagon last year. But I mean, they're coming in. They just beat Villanova by 1 on the road. They're coming home. They've handled teams at home by double digits here. But just looking at this line, Xavier actually opened 11. It's up to 12.5 now, which, you know, it is kind of weird because when these two play last year, 5-point game, 3-point game, 10-point game, like these are always tight games. But Xavier is missing not Klingon, Fremantle, and there's another
Sure.
guy. He's not on the team this year. But one thing I do like in this game is the over. I haven't actually fired on it, but I do like the over in this. UConn plays fast. Xavier also plays fast. They're not really playing the greatest of defense. So I can see this being a lot of points here. These two know each other like the back of their hand. And last year, what we have? 80-75, 82-79, 83-73. So these teams have just been going at it. I am a little worried for Xavier just because of Connecticut getting that scare and coming home on a Sunday. This will be everybody will be watching this before the football game's on. So I think UConn actually shows out. I think they actually score a lot of points here. So the over or what's this team total say?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's the UConn team total looking like?
80.5. That's not terrible.
I don't hate that at all.
Just see how much they're scoring at home. Yeah, they're scoring 86 a game at home. Like I said, they do know each other, but Xavier is missing a couple of those guys from last year. And their defense has kind of struggled a little bit here too. They gave up 85, 92 to Georgetown, 71 to Butler. You know, they're giving up points. So
sure.
I would actually like that team total or the over more than actually backing Xavier. But I mean, just getting Xavier at 12.5, I can't really argue that point at all. Because I mean, Connecticut is rolling, but 13 points is a lot in a conference game. But it is
and like you said, this is probably going to be one of the most watched college basketball games this season because everybody is chomping at the bit to watch something. And I guarantee it's going to be one of the most bet games. To your thoughts on the total, totals have gone over in 5 of the last 5 Xavier games. 5 of their last 6 against the Big East, and 5 of their last 6 games played in January. To my credit, the one that I kind of looked at, Xavier 5-2 against the spread in their last 7, and for some odd reason, they are incredible on Sundays and have not missed the cover. They're 5-0 covering on Sundays this season.
Oh,
whether the boys are just not going out on Saturdays, which I doubt they are. But yeah, to your credit, UConn does feel like a team that's going to put up a lot of points. Over in their games have gone over 4 of their last 6. But here's the deal is it does feel like there's a much better team here that when the lights come on and they know that everybody's watching, are they going to throttle them? And I think team total, I think I actually kind of like that a little bit better. You've talked me away from taking Xavier, but I do think the UConn team total is definitely worth a watch. Some other games at 11, where is Cal Poly in Hawaii? Oh, this was last night.
Oh, yeah.
Hot Shark guy.
How did that game end, actually? I don't even know what it was, but
that game
15. Yeah, 11. I'm not going to lie. I love those 11 p.m. tips. As a DJ, I'm just like perfect.
It's
I'm
the
up
ultimate chase.
1:30.
Yep. Perfect chase time. We got some. Let's talk. Do you want to talk Wright State ooey pooey a little bit? Wright State's laying 15.5. I don't have a whole lot in that one. Anything you like there?
The only thing I really have for this is Wright State does have Youngstown State on deck. So this will be a rematch from this year. Youngstown did get the best of them. So I think Wright State's going to be ready for that game. It is at home this time too. So
Sure.
They won't be, are they actually at APY?
Yeah, they're at.
Yep.
Looks like they're in Indiana today.
Yeah, regardless, I still like Wright State by 15. I mean, if you look at what this IUPUI team has done, they've lost by 28, 17. That IPFW game was ridiculous. 17-point dogs. They won outright.
Heard about that?
Yeah, that was it. Wild game, but they were due. But yeah, otherwise they're getting smoked. 22, 10 points to Green Bay, 13. Fucking
Shout out
52.
Green Bay for not being absolute dog shit this year. They're just
Dude, Sundance Wicks and Noah Reynolds, they're balling. I mean,
They're
Foster
worth-
Wonder
they're
too.
worth the ticket of admission. My buddies, we talked about actually going to a game for the first time in probably a decade since we've actually traveled up there to go to a game. But I think we're gonna actually go watch them because they got something for a team that's had nothing for a long time. They have something.
Yeah, Sundance Wicks is he's the real deal here. He's got this team playing hard. I mean, yesterday I bet Detroit. I've been a big backer of Green Bay, but after that big win against Oakland, taking number one in the Horizon over, I thought there would be a little bit of a letdown, and it was for about 35 minutes, and then Detroited and lost by 14 to a 12 point.
Seems like all your bets, they were all good for about 35 minutes yesterday.
Yeah. If we could just bet 35-minute spreads, that would have been beautiful yesterday.
Not to rub salt in the wound.
No, you're good.
Getting out to our noontime here for us in the Midwest, we get Texas State, Louisiana Lafayette is a 9-point total. I actually, for some odd reason, I had a buddy of mine text me and said, you should talk about the over in this game. Is this an over call for you? Is this even two teams that are on your radar right now? I don't know why he told me that. He didn't give me great reasons. So, and I'm looking at a team in Lafayette that's 1-4 in home overs, but 7-2-1 in away overs. So was I fed bad information?
I don't actually necessarily hate that. I mean, if you look at these two defenses, Texas State, one of the worst in the conference, if not the worst in the conference.
Very poor. You're looking at a team that's ranked 250 plus nationally and pretty much everything important.
Yep. And in the conference, they're allowing 55% effective field goal to opponents. So, I mean, they're drilling them. They're 36% from three, 56% inside the arc. Louisiana does foul a ton. They give away a lot of points at the free throw line. And Texas State also fouls a lot too. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of points here. It's going to come onto the board after the clock is stopped. I mean, Texas State, 79% free throw. Louisiana, 76. Louisiana's offense is good too. Texas State's not the greatest, but they can still put up points. And when you're going to be fouling teams the amount of times they do and send them to the line, you know, even if you are going 18 for 30, that's 18 extra points that are coming on the clock or scoreboard with the clock stop. So I would actually lean the over here. Yeah, I don't hate that look.
I like that, actually. Now that I'm looking at some of the trends here as I'm on OddsShark, total's gone over in 5 of the last 6 for Texas State. Looking at Lafayette, they've done 5 of their last 5 going over. 6 of their last 8 games against Texas State, just in general. I'm going to put that on my card. I am shout out Keegan. That is going to actually end up being a bet over 143.5 in this.
Man, betting Texas State and Louisiana doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, right. I mean, this is going to be your typical ESPN Plus game. Can't wait. Probably going to have some dudes that you've never heard of calling that one. So let's move down. Robert Morris, Cleveland State. I did not have anything in this one. Cleveland State laying 6.5. Totals 153. Anything on your radar for that one?
I mean, Cleveland State is coming off of an overtime loss to Wright State, 107-99 at home. Now they're going to hit the they're staying home, my bad, against Bob Morris. Bob Morris has been rolling 3 straight, but they beat IPFW, who's Fort Wayne, they've been absolute dog in the country and conference play here. Detroit, they won by 3 in double overtime, and then IUPUI was a 17-point win. They've been fine, but they're not doing what they're supposed to against some of these dog teams. So I would actually lean Cleveland State here at home off the loss to a better opponent in Wright State, who's hanging in there. Bob Morris here. They are this window's not open. There we go. Bob Morris, they're not playing much defense. They're also fouling a ton. 40% free throw attempted, the field goal attempted in the red there. So they're sending to a ton. They're giving 22% of your points at the free throw line. So, I mean, whether Cleveland State wants to or not, they're going to get fouled and sent to the line a bunch here in a revenge game. Bob Morris did beat them, I believe, unless I'm thinking of the wrong team here. Last game, let me look. No, Cleveland State won in overtime. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, but these have always been tight. 5-point overtime game, 2-point win for Cleveland State, 9-point. So, I mean, you got to go back a couple years before they actually won convincingly. But I think Cleveland State at home off the loss, they're going to look to get right before they had to hit the road again because they got to play Detroit, then they got to play Oakland, and Oakland is sitting right up there at the top of the conference. So this is going to be a get right game, and then they got to go to Detroit, and I think that might be a little bit of an overlooked game considering they got Oakland on deck. So I think Detroit might play them close for 35 minutes and then do what they do best and blow it. But Cleveland State here against Bob Morris, give it to me. Bob Morris doesn't play much defense. They're allowing 60 or 57% inside the arc too. So I mean, if you're stepping in the paint, you're probably going to score a bucket. So give me Cleveland State in this one. Bob Morris they're not getting it done, and Cleveland State off a loss at home, they're going to get right before they leave.
Love it, man. One that I like, one that kind of got on my radar, the Golden Griffins. Canisius gets to play Marist, and I, for one, love watching Marist play because Marist, for those of you that don't know, is probably the worst offense in the country, in my opinion. They move at a disgustingly pace. Defensively, they're 7th in scoring. They're going to slow this thing down. The total was 128.5. It ticked up to 131.5. So we actually saw some pretty decent line movement. Marist opened at +4.5. It's now +2. My inclinings in this game was under and Canisius, and the Lions have flipped it. So I liked the Golden Griffins in this spot. I don't know how much I like them anymore. Any thoughts on this matchup?
I mean, got to, like you said, Marist, one of the worst offenses in the country, but I'm kind of addicted to betting this team. I love their defense,
Sure.
But I mean, yeah, they're kind of the same thing as San Diego State in the sense where you can play all the defense you want, but if you're not going to score, what good is it going to do? So, yeah, I mean, Marist did burn me on Saturday there. I had them. They were also, or Friday night, they were leading, and then I think last 4 seconds or some shit, they turned the ball over when they were down 3 and ended up losing by 5. So they burnt a lot of people there who backed them. But I mean, Marist can rebound the ball on defense, so they're taking away defensive possessions. But Canisius is number 1 in the conference for grabbing offensive boards. So I think that's going to honestly be where the battle's won. If Marist can keep them off the glass, they're going to they're going to keep Canisius low scoring here and get in the game that Marist wants to play. But that total's ticking up, you said?
Yeah, it's ticking up. And what's crazy, I'm looking, so I don't use a ton of different models. I'm not a big model bettor. There's a few that I trust, and all of them are kind of sitting like 137 to 140 as far as the total in this game. And they're all having Marist scoring more than 65 points. I don't see a game state where that happens necessarily. Yeah, I don't know if that's a spot for me. If I'm going to take that, if I'm going to ride that steam, I feel like we missed the boat maybe at 128.5, jumping all the way up 3 points. For me, it's probably a no bet.
Yeah, I mean, I do. Is it at? Is this at Marist? At Canisius? Okay, well, that kind of sucks. I was gonna say if it was at home, but
that home court advantage for Marist. When Marist is at home, they'll hold you to 50 points. Like, and it's and it's going to be painful. Like, it's gonna suck.
Yeah, it's Marist at home is a they're really fucking good. I love them in the MAAC, but yeah, the MAC. But these two teams can't shoot free throws either. So I mean, I don't, even if they do go to the line a bunch, you're getting 67% or 60% at the line. So I mean, it's gonna be tough to come across points here. But Marist burnt everybody on Friday, sold late. Now you're only laying 2 points with Canisius. Feels a little easy. I would actually kind of lean Marist here, but I do not recommend betting this game. There's far better games if you're going to be throwing your money on the slate than Marist and Canisius.
One of those games that I really am excited to watch. We talk about good home teams. The Rutgers Scarlet Knights are about as good as it gets at home. They're 9-1 at home this year. They are catching 10, which is nuts. Catching 10 at home against Purdue. obviously Purdue is the better team. I don't think either of us are going to sit here and try to say that Rutgers is the better team here, but Rutgers is getting 10 at home. I know Rutgers isn't great. They just got shit on by Illinois. I don't know if you watched that Illinois game the other night.
Yeah.
Not even a game. Never was. That was an absolute ass kicking. But in my opinion, I don't hate the home double-digit dog here on a Sunday standalone game. It's going to be one of the only nationally televised ones. Am I wrong to think Rutgers in this spot? I know the numbers don't really say it, but I'm just more of a thought of it's just a thought at this point, I guess.
No, I'm actually with you. You don't walk into the rack and get a W. I mean, this Purdue team knows all about that. I mean, Rutgers, for the last 6 they've taken from Purdue. Purdue's got a 5-point win and then a 12-point win, but those are at home. So I mean, Purdue hasn't won in Rutgers since February 3rd, 2019.
Really?
So yeah, it's been a minute now. This Rutgers team is what's that?
Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID. It's been a minute. Like this Purdue team struggles on the road there, as do a lot of teams. But
Purdue's only 3-2 on the road this season in general. I mean, they're just not the same team. And I don't know, Purdue. I watched Purdue against Michigan. Michigan is about as sad of a team as you can get in the Big Ten right now. So I don't know how much I read into that game. But they've been able to kind of build up with some. So you get Michigan, Iowa, Indiana. Back to back, all of them blowouts for the most part. The Iowa game, Iowa hung in there a little bit longer than I expected them to, but Vegas had them at 6.5 and they covered it. So, but yeah, like you said, you're not going to walk into Rutgers and get yourself an easy win. That's just not going to happen. I think you and I are both on Rutgers plus the 10 in this one. We'll move right along. North Texas, Florida Atlantic. This was actually an interesting game that kind of crossed the radar this morning. North Texas, for those that don't know, another one of these Marist type teams that wants to slow you down as much as you can. And FAU, they want to run, Stooley. It's going to be about as much of a difference of styles as we'll get. Totals 133, FAU's laying 9. What are your thoughts?
I'm actually a huge FAU fan. They won me a ton of coin last year. So yeah, I'm a big fan. I got a signed John L. Davis jersey back there too. This FAU team, man, they've not been pretty to watch as of late. They've out of conference. They had that amazing Arizona win. They almost beat Illinois if Illinois didn't shoot 64%. But this is a team that's knocked off some serious teams, and then you enter conference play. 1-point win against Tulane, good team, but UAB 13-point win, didn't cover. Wichita State 9-point win, didn't cover. UTSA took them to overtime, didn't cover. Rice, they covered by a late, I think it was a late bucket or turnover or something. But they've just been a little rough in conference play. And now this is the first time I believe they're laying less than double digits in conference play here. Tulane, they were laying 7.
Well, and this thing, the crazy thing about this thing opened 10.5. She's tightened up to 9. There's been some good money. That makes sense.
I do lean North Texas here. I mean, I kind of had my nuts on the table with Rice first half and money line against them last game, and it ended up pushing, but they were right there until the end. North Texas, this is a team that will slow you down and likes to grind it out. I'm trying to find they had some injuries.
I've actually got that.
Robert Hughes.
Yeah.
I don't know if he played last.
He's going to be active. It looks like they're going to be fully active.
Perfect. Then North Texas. I as much as I hate fading my Owls here, but you can't be laying double-digit points or damn near double digits with this team right now. They're struggling. They don't get up for these little games.
Last 8 against the spread. I mean, that's tough.
They've been due for a minute, and they've kind of burnt. But I mean, this is a big game. North Texas is coming off of a big SMU win. Mm-hmm. They got pounded by 12 at Charlotte, but Charlotte, that's what they do. They don't like to play fast. They're going to grind you out. Yeah, it was amazing. North Texas. Once that injury came out, I was like, I'm out. I was all over Charlotte. So. I like them here. This is definitely going to be a get-up game for them. FAU early in the morning or, early tip-off. I don't know how up they're going to be for this game. So fade the Owls. If I had to choose a side, I would definitely go under because North Texas, when they get the ball, they're going to want to slow it down because they know for a fact they cannot run run up and down with FAU. And the fact that it's only 132.5, it feels a little low. So that makes me want to play the under there. It's telling you that North Texas is going to get their game and FAU is going to kind of do what they've been doing, just not be able to pull away or secure this game. So I think they'll win, but North Texas is going to cover this game.
Yeah, I think both of us, I mean, you look at both of these, I think FAU and Purdue are both in really interesting spots. FAU probably, I feel a little bit more confident in with them being at home, but like you said, they've been playing like absolute shit lately. I don't really feel confident. I'm probably going to be taking North Texas in that one. When you got such a low scoring team, anytime you get them around plus 10, it's like, well, how low scoring do you want to get? Like it can get really, really tight. So we can talk about this one. Northern Kentucky, Youngstown State should be an interesting matchup. We talked about Youngstown a little bit. They're laying 6.5. That line has been solid. It has ticked up slightly. The over-under is now 146. These are two teams that I think are pretty solid offensively from everything I've seen out of them. They don't shoot the three particularly well, but Youngstown, to me, in this one kind of feels like the team to lay. I'm not probably going to take it, as NKU has actually been, they've covered 5 of their last 6 against Youngstown State, and they're actually 13-2 straight up in their last 15 against them. So they have had their number, but we talked about it. Youngstown is much better this season, 5-0 against the spread in their last 5. Stooley, what are your thoughts on this one? This should be about as good of a mid-major matchup as we'll get today.
Yeah, the Horizon League has been awesome this year. That tournament's going to be, the conference tournament's going to be electric, but
what do they play conference tournament at?
I could not tell you where it's
they
played
might
at.
Travel.
I think they do home games, and then I think the championship or something is on a neutral somewhere.
If we host one, we should go.
Oh yeah, I'll be there.
We should go.
Yeah, I have off that whole week for conference tournaments. I already put in my vacation. So yeah, I mean, I'd be down to go, but this Youngstown State, they've got who's on deck here? Wright State. They did beat them last, so I'm not really counting this as a look ahead game, but Northern Kentucky did beat them last time out, 79-76. And then they did beat them to end the year at Youngstown, 75-63. They killed their season. Youngstown was rolling last year with Cohill and company, and Northern Kentucky killed them. So the fact that they didn't get the revenge on them right away, kind of, telling that maybe this isn't the best Youngstown State, but I don't know, but I don't like laying 6.5 with teams. It's just an odd number.
Such a terrible that you're asking to get your heart broken with free throws.
Yep. Yeah. They're going to be up 4 late, 5 late. They make one, miss the other, go down. Northern Kentucky or whoever, bricks it, doesn't make it, and then they just give up or something.
Yep.
Or Northern Kentucky makes it and give up. So
I say in college basketball numbers, you talk anything between 6 and 9 points, you have no idea what a team is going to do, if they're going to foul or not. I can't even stand it. Look at this. 4-pack session tickets for Horizon Tourney. $60. 4 games for $60. In Biden's America,
damn,
you're not going to get that deal anywhere else. You're not going to get that deal anywhere else. But yeah, no, I think you're right. 6.5 is one of those numbers that gets me a little bit uneasy. Let's keep her moving out to the 1:00 slate. And I think they shut these. They really should shut these basketball games down before the football games start. They're kind of shooting themselves in the foot on that.
Yeah.
But I don't really have anything for Arkansas State, Louisiana Monroe. Anything you want to mention in that matchup?
Don't really have too much on there. I can just pull it up and look at something quick. But here we go. Arkansas State, 1-1. They're 1-3 in their last 3. They are coming. Is this at Arkansas State?
This is at Monroe.
Oh man, this is the 4th game in a row on the road for Arkansas State now.
That's brutal.
That is very brutal.
Conference play.
Is pretty brutal. UL Monroe, they've been home. They just beat South Alabama by 14 as 3.5-point dogs. At home, they haven't done great. Marshall beat them by 11. Georgia Southern by 8. Southern Miss whooped them by 13. Yeah, I'm not really. What is the line on this? Who's laying points here?
So yeah, right now.
Monroe's catching 5.
It's Monroe. Yeah, Monroe's catching 5.5. And one thing I got to mention with Monroe, 1-7 against the spread in their last 8 home games. They do not have any sort of home court advantage. I would lean over, just looking at some stuff here. These two teams, the over's gone over in 5 of their last 7. UL Monroe 4 of their last 6, Arkansas State 6 of their last 7. So I would lean the over, but it's not anything that I'm going to be putting my coin on.
No, yeah, I would lean that over with you. I mean, if you look at Arkansas State, 4th straight road game, they gave up 81, 72, and then 70 or 69. So
they're due to give up a big number today.
Yep, and this is 4th game in a row. I think they're home next against Southern Miss, so they might just be looking ahead to getting home and just ending this road trip. So if anything, I would actually disgusting lean Monroe in the over here, but they're definitely not playing this game personally.
Well, and I always look at like college basketball when teams go on these like road trips. So it's not like the NBA. You're not flying everywhere. You know, you're flying some places, but you're a lot of the times you're spending a shitload of hours on the bus. It's not like the NBA. You're not lavish lifestyling at first class, easy. But yeah, no, it's definitely worth looking at. St. Peter's, the Cox are laying 8.5, 127.5. Totals ticked up 3.5 points. Do we see any value in the Siena St. Peter's total in this one?
Not sure if you want a total, potentially got to look at, and my whole book just froze up, switch to DraftKings here. If you're looking at Siena, they are without 2 guys. I don't know if they'll be back. I fired on it, the team total under, last game, and it was sweat free. I think they had 12 points with 6 minutes left in the first half.
Oh, wow.
The 2 guys that are in question, if they'll be back, Michael Ely and then Duru Gordon, I believe. Those 2 averaged 38 points, 14 rebounds, and 3 assists a game.
Wow.
So, I mean, the offense runs through those guys. And if one of them is missing, it kills the Siena team. And Siena in general is just not good this year.
Yeah, Siena's 3-16. It's just not a good basketball team. To me, it's a no bet, especially with the injury. Right now, I'm looking at the injury report on OddsShark. They've actually got 3 guys downgraded to doubtful. The 2 that you mentioned, and then Michael Ojo as well. If
doubtful. You can get a team total on Siena, then I actually might fire on that, because St. Peter's defense is best in the conference. They send you to the free throw line a little bit, but Siena doesn't really execute at the free throw line, shooting 68%, 24.8% from 3-point land in conference play. This is a team that's going to struggle. I mean, if St. Peter's just overlooks it and they don't really give a shit about playing defense, maybe they can keep it tight. But man, St. Peter's doesn't want to lose to Siena at home.
St. Peter's, being healthy, and you got Siena was so banged up and just not a good team. And St. Peter's is a pretty solid team. They ripped off 7 straight wins there, I think it was 6 straight wins not too long ago. So yeah, I mean, I would lean St. Pete's, and like you said, I think Siena, if you can get Siena's team total in your book, maybe sprinkle that under. I'm sure it'll be nice and low.
Yeah, they've had 51, 50, and then 70 against Quinnipiac, 88 or 93 against Niagara. I remember that game. That was nobody could miss in that game. It was stupid, 93, 98, but 63, 69, 66. This isn't a team that scores a lot, and then you're going to take away all that offensive production from them.
Yeah,
that team total under might be one of my favorite plays of the day.
I love that. I'm writing that down. I'm pretty much writing down everything. I'm gonna have a stupid fucking card today. Anyways, Manhattan Niagara, I have nothing in this one. I haven't watched a whole lot of either of these teams, weirdly enough, because I've actually in the past, Niagara's a team that I've kind of weirdly bet a lot on because they're ESPN Plus special. But yeah, I don't really have one here to get any sort of leans. I'll start it off. Just Manhattan's 1-6 in their last 7 against the spread. They've lost 10 straight games. They're 1-4 in their last 5 against Niagara against the spread. And Niagara's covered 10 of their last 11. This is a team that is covering games pretty consistently. Over's gone in 6 of their last 7. Right now, the line is Niagara laying 9, total 147.5. Got to lean Niagara, right?
Yeah, lean Niagara. I mean, you're just looking at Manhattan offensively, worst in the country, 92 efficiency rating, which is versus 111.6 for Niagara. It's just, they are putrid. Niagara doesn't play defense though either. That's the other thing. They like to grab some defensive rebounds, so they'll keep you off of little second chance points, doing their best. But man, 36% from 3, 54% inside the arc. They're not forcing turnovers. So
their
Niagara
is 355th in opponent field goal percentage.
Yeah,
There's only 360 teams.
Yeah. Looking at that number, I do lean Niagara, but it feels like a big one. I can't actually bet Manhattan ever. But
Sure.
if you're looking at this, the past 10 matchups, they have not laid more than 5 points to cover. Now you're asking to lay 10 points. And Niagara in their last 10 overall, they were laying 5.5 at Siena. They lost that game outright. So lean Niagara, but something tells me that if you're going to bet this game, bet Manhattan, but don't bet this game.
Yeah, no, I think the only thing that I could ever see myself stomaching is if I have a minus 200 prop that I really, really like today, I might sprinkle Niagara money line. And
Yeah,
just,
you can't go wrong.
round that out and try to make that a little bit better odds. This one here, actually, a pretty solid matchup. We talked a little bit about SMU earlier. SMU, Wichita State. SMU currently 5-point favorites. It's opened at 4.5. It's opened up a little bit, but not a whole lot. Totals ticked up 1.5 to 146. I'm excited for this game. This is going to be a solid one. I don't know. SMU, they're kind of in a weird spot. I was really high on SMU. They lost to North Texas, but we talked about North Texas. Anytime you play North Texas, they're going to put you in a box. Before that game, they won 7 of 8. Wichita State, on the other hand, what the fuck is going on with Wichita State? And like, well, they are completely spiraling. I thought this was actually a solid team. You go to ECU, who lose 54-52. I mean, that just seems like the culmination of a really, really bad stretch. Is there any chance Wichita State bounces back and gets in the win column here? I don't see it.
I'm not a fan of Paul Mills. He's come in. I mean, they were decent beginning of the year, but
yeah, they looked actually pretty solid at the beginning of the year, I would say.
Yeah. But they've entered conference play and they've just shit the bed. I mean, right at about December 3rd, they've won 1 game since, and that was against Southern Illinois at home by 1 point. This is bad. Yeah, this team's just been sorry. Wichita State, we're kind of getting used to Wichita being, a good program that's going to be around in March. We're going to see them. They'll make a couple runs every couple years, but not this year. This team is rough. They're coming off of a 2-point home loss. Now they're going to be home again against SMU, who's off of a loss against an elite defensive team in North Texas. Wichita State, if you're looking at conference play, rough. 53% effective field goal. That's bottom of the conference. They don't force turnovers. They're turning it over 23.4% of offensive possessions. Like that's disgusting. And now you're going to get an SMU team that is first in the conference at forcing turnovers at 20% on defensive possessions. They're not giving you 3 points. They're not giving you inside. Opponents are only shooting 61% free throws against them. I kind of factor that more into home court, so I'm not going to really prey on that one too much. Sure. But Wichita State, 66% free throw, 30% 3-point, turning the ball over a ton, not getting to the free throw line. The one thing they are elite at is not fouling and giving you free points at the line. So they got that going for them, but I got to play SMU here. This is going to be ugly. I mean, you're getting the number 1 team at forcing turnovers and then a team that just gives you the ball half the time anyway. So yeah, it's going to be a struggle for Wichita. I think, they made a lineup change. They added, what's the kid's name? I forget the kid's name, but they added him into the lineup and they looked pretty good for the first half. And then they kind of just petered out. And they've just been losing close games. 4-point game to South Florida, 2-point to East Carolina, 7 to Temple. That Memphis game, I don't know if you saw that Memphis game against them. That was that shit was stupid. Nobody could miss. It was, and then they followed it up the next game doing the same thing. So, if anything, I'm leaning SMU in this one. I don't trust Wichita State as far as I can throw them. They're probably going to get their first win against either Tulsa or UTSA here upcoming. But I mean, they got SMU, Memphis, and Florida Atlantic, 3 of the next 5 games here. So they're going to be in for a rough one here. And honestly, Florida Atlantic could be the one that kind of fucks around and keeps Wichita State close.
That would be interesting to see what that line would be, especially with a game played at Wichita State. But we talk about the Shockers, 0-8 in their last 8, 1-9-1 against the spread in their last 11. SMU's 9-1-1 against the spread in their last 11. And the one that stands out to me as I was looking through all these things, fun fact, there's not a player on this SMU team that has ever beaten Wichita State, ever. Wichita State has beaten them 7 straight times. You can't tell me that those guys don't know that and want to come out and kick their ass. I'm all about SMU today. I like SMU money line. I like SMU spread. I'll probably have some sort of action involving both of them. But this
I don't
does
actually hate
fall-
that. What's the line on this one?
It is
5?
5. So they're laying
Oof.
5. It's right before I kind of
On the
get
road,
rid of
too.
those numbers. Would love it at 4.5, but it looks like we're probably going to extend out to 5.5. It's minus 117 right now. But yeah, I think we're both kind of in the same boat there with Wichita State. We got 3 games to go. These are going to be games that are going to be played during the AFC and NFC championship games. There's nobody that's going to be watching them at all. However, we still may have them tuned on to a second channel. I know you will. Temple, Eastern Carolina, one of the, I guess we'll talk, bigger matchups of the day. How big can it be? Right now, ECU is laying 6.5 at home. Totals 136. What are your thoughts, man? I'm kind of torn on this. I could probably go either way at this point. I don't have a super strong opinion on either side as I've kind of ran through them. Temple's not great against the spread. Actually, they're horrible. They're 1-11-11 or 1-11-1 in their last 13. But ECU, it's kind of a rock and a hard place. They don't score much. They're not incredible against the spread. See if you can convince me one way or the other, because I just keep going back and forth in this matchup.
Yeah, ECU is a team that I'm a watcher and follower of the college experience on YouTube and Twitch, and they have Colby Dant is a huge ECU fan. He's kind of turned me on to him, and this team's grindy. They'll fucking fight. I mean, they're losing games, but 8-point road loss to UAB, 1 point North Texas loss. They lost by 11 at SMU, but they did beat Temple last time out by 11. So I mean, we'll see how pissed off Temple is about that. But Temple 1-8-1, 1-8-1 the last 10 against the spread here. UCF I thought was a good spot for him. UCF have been coming off some of those big games, and they couldn't catch him at home either. East Carolina, though, they're 2 games on the road. They just took a dub. Now they're headed back home against a team that they beat last time. Otherwise, Temple's kind of own this rivalry for the most part. But Pettiford will be the best player on the floor, and he plays for East Carolina, Kansas transfer. So that always kind of nudges me towards East Carolina a little more. But this is that dreaded 6.5 number again, which I'm not a giant fan of. If we're looking at the spread, yeah, they're getting 6% of bets, 43% of money.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually ticked down from 7, so I'm not a huge fan of that. But I kind of like the under in this one, to be honest. I don't see much points. Temple's not a
agree with you, and let me marinate that a little bit. Total's gone under in 6 of the last 7 ECU games, 5 of their last 6 against Temple, and 6 of their last 8 at home, 4 of their last 6 at home against Temple. Temple's gone under in 8 of their last 10 as well. So I think under 136, you and I are both kind of correlated in the same.
I see 135 now.
Or 135 now. Is it kind of ticking? So yeah, we're gonna get on it. On it quick, because it is moving. These are going to be some.
If you wanted to get spicy, take ECU money line and the under, kind of spice that up. But
hell yeah.
I mean, that 6.5 is a weird number where it's weird things happen. But
we talked about it, man. You're going to rely on college kids to make free throws. I will do whatever I can to avoid that. Let's talk about Memphis UAB. This is an interesting matchup right now. Memphis laying 4 on the road. Total is the highest of the day at 158. Memphis, they've been winning games. They're 1-7 against the spread in their last 8. They're not covering games. They've dominated UAB in the past. UAB has actually won 8 of their last 10 and have actually played pretty well this year. I didn't see UAB on my radar at all, but Alabama Birmingham really kind of making some noise, and could really make some noise if they upset the Tigers.
Yeah, and I don't think that's off the table. I mean,
so
we just saw UCF, Memphis lose to USF
and Tulsa
10 days ago. Yep, and yeah, I mean, I was on that USF money line that looked dead for a good portion of that game. In the second half, it clicked. But this Memphis team, they kind of struggle with that. They get up to a lead, or they just kind of like don't apply themselves as much as they should, and they let these teams hang around. Like, as you can see, 2-8 against the spread in the last 10. People love betting Memphis. This is a great team. I mean, but when you slow them down and you make them think, they kind of just hit a different gear. But UAB is not a fan of slowing the pace down. They like to run and gun as much as they can. So But with this spread being 4, kind of telling. I mean, the fact that Memphis is a public favorite, they're getting hammered in the money line too, or spreads here. 78% of bets, 53% of money.
And despite that, we opened at 5 and moved to 4, which is a little interesting.
Even better.
I mean, yeah,
even better.
I think plus 165 for UAB. You probably get it plus 180 on Bet Openly. Is it worth a sprinkle? Is that worth a little Sunday afternoon sprinkle?
I don't hate it. UAB's kind of been, they've been good, but they've a little bit of a letdown. Thought they should have been a little better, but I mean, when you're losing, oh man, who's the guard from last year? Jelly Walker. Yeah, him.
Jelly, baby.
Jelly time. They kind of struggled to figure it out, but they've gotten it going since December 13th. They've won 2, 4, 6, 8 games. They're 8-2 in their last 10. So
isn't it crazy how one guy can completely change the culture? I mean, he has completely changed the culture, and it's spilled over to the guys that he made UAB. He put them on the map for basketball, and dude, if they beat Memphis today,
I think they can.
Discourse.
Yes, 100%. I mean, this UAB team, if you look in conference play, they're number 1 in defensive rebounds. That's where Memphis doesn't give a shit whatsoever. They're 313th in the country at grabbing defensive rebounds. So UAB is going to be able to get those second chance points. If they give a shit and they actually crash the glass, they're going to get those second chance opportunities. They get to the free throw line a ton. Memphis, they'll send you to the line, but it's not a ton. But they allow the 3-point ball so much. So UAB is going to need that to fall. But on paper, this should be a bigger spread, but I think 4 is pretty telling. I get UAB is coming home after the loss to Charlotte. They did put up 76 on Charlotte. So, I mean, this is an offense that when they're rolling, they can actually get it going. Memphis, 2 straight losses.
Well, like you said, too, I like what you said about Memphis and the fact that when they have to slow it down and they have to think, things go poorly. Memphis is all a reactionary team. They don't want to have to go into these games where they have to grind it out. I think you're 100% correct on that.
Yep.
Where UAB has no problem playing that game, and they probably know that. They probably, that's how their scouting report looks. So,
Andy Kennedy's a good coach. He's gonna have these guys ready. I mean, it's not like he's entering this league for the first time. He's played against Penny. He knows what's got to happen. So, I would lean UAB here. And if you want to sprinkle that money line, I don't hate it. I think that 4.5
nobody's going to be scared of. I mean, nobody on UAB is going to be scared going into this game. I think they're going to be as confident as they get, and they know that they're sitting here again, standalone game on a Sunday. So. Let's talk about the final game of the evening, which I kind of love. The fact that we're getting this at 9:00 after the football games are done. We get to finish the night with the Nevada Wolfpack traveling to the Pit. They're headed to New Mexico to face the Lobos. Lobos are laying 8. I'm a little surprised. I mean, you talk about, so these teams in their last 10 against each other, New Mexico's won once. This has been all Nevada for years. They've owned this rivalry head to head. 8 points is a lot. Nevada's not great against the spread. What are your thoughts in this game?
Man, going to the Pit is one of the toughest places to play in America, and I'll stand on that. That place gets fucking lit. I mean, you got the dad with the face paint with his kid who's got the face paint going on. I mean, the students are out. The whole place is lit. And shout out to Mountain West for putting this game on at 9 and not 6 o'clock.
Yes, so. I mean that's the self-awareness we need out of schedule makers.
Yes, is
the ability to do that.
Yeah, I mean, yes, take some of those Saturday games, put them on Friday. Maybe sprinkle a little more on Sundays and shit, but we don't need 100. As much as great as it is, 156 college games.
156 is so many. I literally was just too overwhelmed. I closed my book. I was like, you know what? We'll go to work today. It's especially when we were hopping on our show and we're doing this. It's like, man, we could talk about every single game, but it's like we don't need to be talking about 6 hours, but who wants to do that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they had Boise State and Utah State playing at 3:00 in the afternoon yesterday with Baylor going on and Kentucky and them, which it makes zero sense. They can that should have been a game for today, but
absolutely either that or play it super late last night, one or the other.
Like a Friday night, this New Mexico Nevada game on a Friday night or something.
This
holy shit,
killer Friday night at 9:00 tip. But instead, I don't hate 10 Eastern, 9 o'clock tip our time for a Saturday or for a Sunday night rather. I don't know if I'll be up and awake by that point. I'll probably be a little liquored up and ready to go to bed. But yeah, I think this is the perfect end to a day that's going to be just chock loaded of sports. If you want to check out probably I might get some backlash for this, a top 3, maybe top 4 atmosphere in college basketball when shit really gets going. Tune into the Pit tonight. This is going to be a good game. I do think Nevada right now at +8 holds a little bit of value just because they have owned them in the past, but New Mexico's winning games. They've covered 4 straight, 5 of their last 6. I don't know. I don't probably have a bet for this game, but that's okay.
I'm looking at the over or taking New Mexico's total over 80.5. I mean, New Mexico scores 86 at home. Nevada, as of late, they're allowed 78 points a game on the road in their last 3, which is, at home they're allowing 61, road 71. So, I mean, they've kind of been getting a little lackadaisical on the defensive end here. And New Mexico, this is a team that can put up points like crazy. I mean, if you look in these last couple of games, I mean, it's 77, 76, 97, 94, 79, 72. All of these are owned by Nevada, which, it's crazy that they go into the Pit and they get these dubs.
I know
1, 2, 4 straight wins at the Pit, and now they're catching 8. Kind of feels a little suspect. I mean, Nevada is coming in off of the big Colorado State win at home. They whooped them by 13.
Right.
I mean, you go the road, they lost 93-98 to Wyoming, 59-71 to San Diego State, beat Fresno. But other than that, they're 1-3 in their last 4. So the points is very tempting with Nevada, especially given their history here, and Keenan Blackshear can just take over a game. But New Mexico's got some dudes this year. Donovan Dent, this freshman guard, he's going to be taking over for Jalen House when he leaves. He's electric. He's
averaging where he plays next year.
Yeah, man, he could stay at New Mexico. I'm not gonna. Right. This is a decent program. They're gonna get into the tournament. Mountain West can send more than one team. So I wouldn't be shocked if he left though.
New Mexico reminds me of Wyoming.
That's where Noah Reynolds came from for Green Bay.
Right. And I get really upset because Wyoming was this team a few years ago. They exactly were this New Mexico team. They were almost impossible to beat at home. They had dudes, but as we both know, the portal comes knocking. But New Mexico, I will say New Mexico as a university is probably a whole hell of a lot more fun than going to Wyoming. So I totally can understand why a guy would probably want to stay at New Mexico. And I think the coaching's a lot better in New Mexico than they were getting at Wyoming. I think the players were outplaying their coaching, which probably led to them leaving. So, but yeah, man, that's the slate for a Sunday. It's a slate. That's for sure. It's not bad. At least we get something. I know that we're going to get out of here. I'm probably going to be done right around 11 o'clock, and I'm going to be ready to start gambling. So make sure you lock in. Stooley's got his handle right there at Stooley Picks on X. Tune in with him and the boys. They are you guys daily now?
We're trying to. We had some shit going on the last week, so we didn't go at all. But
that's crazy. We're not making money on this stuff to go daily on it yet. So, but yeah, man, I appreciate you stopping by. We're gonna be doing plenty more of this as we get into college basketball season. So thank you very much for bringing in the expertise and give my best to the boys.
One side thing, I am seeing 58.5 for Siena as a team total.
Whoa!
Once you get that news that Dura Gordon and Ely are out, I'd fire on that. But if one of them are in, I'm going to stay away. But if they're both out, I'm firing on it.
Perfect. I'm going to keep my eye on that as we get closer to tip. That one's the noon tip, I think, for that one.
Yep. Hey, Xavier's down to 11.5 too. So
you might be. We got line movement going as we go, man. That's how she works. Go. All right, Stooley. Appreciate you. We will talk to you shortly. Enjoy your action today. I can ban you from the studio. That's very funny.
What do you got for Ravens today, by the way?
What's that?
What do you got in the Ravens game?
I'm going to talk about it a little bit.
Perfect.
Or no, I actually already talked about it. Sprinkling Chiefs money line, Ravens -3 first half. Ravens under 24.5. Packers are the only team that scored over 24 against the Chiefs this season. I think that holds true. And then prop wise, where were we? Zay Flowers over 4.5 receptions, as well as Mahomes over 36.5 passing attempts. So
Perfect. I'm actually tailing someone on that Mahomes passing attempt, so love to hear that you're on it too.
love it.
I actually
love it,
grabbed
love
the Ravens -3 at the beginning of the week. Right when that line dropped, I grabbed it.
That's a hell of a line. That's
Yeah.
a really good line. You
Yeah.
must have got that on Saturday or Sunday night.
Yeah, right after the game was done, I was sitting there refreshing. The second it came out 3.5 juice to the Chiefs, and then I was like,
Oh.
if this drops to 3, I'm on it. So I got it. But
Love
yeah,
that too.
this is a game where I just see the Chiefs benefited from kind of a lackluster Bills defense, you
Oh, yeah.
could say last week.
They were
I
beat
mean,
up. I mean, the Bills,
there's some-
they were going to lose eventually. I had a Bills Super Bowl future, and it was 10-1. I felt no confidence. I was like, they've won too many games in a row.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I mean, that it was tough. I mean, they losing Milano middle of the season. Their defense is banged up, so you can't really fault them. But I don't see the Chiefs' offense just scares me still. I mean, they dominated.
I said it at the top of the show. I said I am not going to be the guy that comes to work on Monday morning that bet against Patrick Mahomes as he goes to
Fair.
yet another Super Bowl.
Fair.
So that's why I got a little bit of a sprinkle. Bet openly had the money line at plus 194. So that's awesome.
There you go.
A little bit there, but all right, boss. I'll let you go.
Appreciate it.
We are going to talk a little NFC Championship game to wrap up our day. Thank you very much to my boy Stooley. That was a very good section of basketball. All right, let's talk NFC Championship game. Very similar to how we're going to talk about the AFC game. We'll go injuries, weather. Not a whole lot to talk about with the weather, but let's talk injuries. Niner gang, you have to be over the moon with Debo not being on the injury report this week. Dude's a dog. I didn't expect otherwise, let's be honest. The only guy in their injury report was ex-Packer Oren Burks, linebacker. He's a backup, had a collision at practice. He's questionable. Not a big deal. Now, Detroit. They probably paid quite a bit of attention to their report this week. Got great news. Sam Laporta's playing. Frank Ragnow is probably going to have 2 full leg stints. This dude has got to be, oh my God, dog. That's all you can really say. Really, the only thing to talk about is Jonah Jackson. He twisted up his knee. He is not going to go. This is a really banged up Detroit offensive line going up against a 49er pass rush. That's going to be one of the stories to watch, in my opinion. They didn't get home a lot against Jordan Love last week, but I think against a banged up Lions team, running between the tackles is going to be difficult, and that pass rush up the middle will be strong. Weather-wise, 49ers fans resting easy. They will not have to sit through another Brock Purdy weather game. We're looking at sun mid-70s in Santa Clara with a 0% chance of precipitation. No external variables on the NFC Championship game, in my opinion. Frank Ragnow is playing for Detroit. Obviously, you lost an interior guard. These are the 2 teams that most people thought were going to be here as we got later in the season. These are the 2 teams that are here. I never believed in the NFC East, so this is exactly kind of where I thought it would end up being. I was just looking at my week 15 power rankings, had Detroit, Kansas City, had all these teams in the top 6. It was top 7. We had 6 and 7 with Detroit and Kansas City. So it's kind of been this way down the stretch. Let's talk a little bit about the spreads in this one, spreads and money lines. 49ers laying 7. This has kind of been teetering. You can get 7.5 close to in some books. I'm teasing the lines out to 13.5. That's the second leg of my teaser. So Lions at 13.5, Chiefs at 10. I'm going to be, I don't think I can buy myself into, we talked about the bet openly lines that are out there. Detroit, you can get them plus 7.5 if you really, really want them. I think everybody was less than impressed with San Francisco last week, but I don't want you to fall into that trap. Do I think this is too many points for a team that was 7-2 against the spread on the road? It absolutely is. But at the same time, you have a group in San Francisco that has been there. They have done this before. Outside of Jared Goff, there's really no championship experience in Detroit. Do I think the Lions completely turtle? No, but I am really nervous for them. The weather being perfect really helps one team a hell of a lot more, in my opinion, than the other team. As far as the half line is concerned, I don't really have a lean. I do, however, have a pairing. I've got San Francisco first half money line, and you could take that, I think, with the Ravens first half money line if you wanted to. I'm actually going to parlay it with something we'll talk about in a little bit for a little fun parlay in that one. So we're looking at San Francisco first half money line. They were tied or leading in every game but 3. The Packer game obviously was a little bit weird in the first half. I don't think they come out as sloppy, especially with some good weather. I have no opinion on the first quarter line here, laying 1.5. Looking at the totals, 51.5 total. The funny thing is Detroit Super Bowl projected totals came out this week. Everybody was all up in arms. Oh, as high as 52.5. Yeah, Detroit doesn't play defense. They don't play defense, and their offense is solid. And nobody, like I said, nobody respects them defensively. Why should they? I love the over here, the leading over squad with Detroit. I do think San Francisco is going to be able to do pretty much whatever they want offensively. I do think the Lions do have the ability to keep pace if needed. I am going to stay away. The one thing the first half total I'm staying away from. It's interesting. San Francisco, they saw 2/3 of their first half totals go over. Staying away, though, Detroit just went 50-50 on theirs. I do have a game state parlay that I am putting down. I talked about San Francisco first half money line plus first quarter over 9.5. I got it for plus 140. Depending where you're shopping, the 9.5 is going to be like minus 130 to 140 itself. And then you get the San Francisco money line about minus 250 or so. But yeah, I think first quarter lines, that's anytime, like I said, anytime you're getting 9.5, you get a little excited in a game where you think there's going to be some points. I do think this is a game where points are not at a premium. I do think the over is hot on the total for the game. I also think, like I said, you can pair up if you want with a first quarter. Let's talk a little bit of props. So we've got plenty of props. This is like the all-name game. I mean, you've got dudes all over the field. So really, you could diversify your prop portfolio and go crazy this week. Talking about the passing props, nothing super interesting to me as far as passing yardage. For all their shortcomings last week, San Francisco actually did a pretty decent job holding Love to under 200 yards. Entrusting Purdy to throw for 280 feels like a lot. I'm not going to fade it because I know the Lions can give up 280 very easily, especially with, again, good weather. Goff over 1.5 touchdown passes is interesting at even money. I actually thought about it, but you look at his number, it was a 50-50 number all season. So, I mean, a 50-50 number and I'm getting it at plus 100. I don't care. It's a non-bet to me. Purdy to throw a pick was also around even money. It's been a super popular one that last week they had 2 drop picks. I actually am in the camp that I think he's going to be a little bit paranoid. I'm going under a half a pick. I don't think Purdy's throwing a pick this weekend. I think he is going to clean it up, if not be a little bit paranoid after he had 2 no doubt interceptions last week. I don't care that they weren't on the stat sheet. 2 no doubt interceptions that will be intercepted this week without the rain. So I do like Purdy to clean it up a little bit and take care of the football. That one is going to be just a half unit. Looking at rushing, it's technically not a rushing prop, but I am sprinkling a quarter of a unit on CMC first touchdown. It's north of plus 300 just about everywhere, but I believe San Francisco is going to look to shove early. I think they come down the field very different than what they did in the Packer game, where they could not come down the field and they watched the Packers have a 7-minute drive right out of the gates. I wouldn't be surprised if San Francisco tries to do that and kind of takes control of this thing early. Other rushing props that I do like, Gibbs totals right around 50, but I worry about the game state in this one. If it does end up being a blowout, if San Francisco gets up, do they stop running the ball? I'm going to get Gibbs involved. Don't worry. CMC does have a respectable total as well, but we're going to talk about more the running backs in the passing attack because I've got Jahmyr Gibbs over 76.5 rushing receiving yards this week. He had 114 combined last week. I expect heavy dosage. They are going to use him a lot. I think they played the long game with him, and to their credit, it was very frustrating to watch during the season, but the guy seems to have really fresh legs right now. Looking at San Francisco, Debo is a little banged up, but I kind of like him to clear his receiving total, hovering right around 50. I think he's kind of due for a big-time performance. He hasn't reached 50 in 5 straight games. It's kind of the perfect secondary to do it against. He looked good in his only 2 catches against Green Bay last week. I think he does have a big game. I am going to be doing a half unit on Debo. I think it's 48.5. I got to double check. I did not lock that in yet, so hopefully it didn't tick up too much. But I like Debo, call it 50 plus receiving yards. And then my Detroit side, I actually am going alternate line in this one, taking alternate receptions market, zeroing in on Sam Laporta. Laporta 6+ receptions is just over plus money. He had 11 targets last week despite being banged up. I'm actually going to ladder this, and this is somebody that has never laddered anything in his career. I'm going 6+ receptions, 7+ receptions, 8+ receptions, unit, half unit, quarter unit, and just ride that out because, dude, we're here to have fun today, and that's what we're going to do because I've ran through everything. I'm looking at everything. If there's anything else I want to go through, I know we spent a lot more time on the AFC Championship game. In my opinion, there's a lot more intricacies to that game, obviously being a tighter game. San Francisco, I want Detroit to win. I do. I do want Detroit to win. I don't see how Detroit wins. I think San Francisco is going to clean it up. I just don't want San Francisco to win a Super Bowl. Please don't clip this. I couldn't handle the San Francisco Super Bowl. That's one thing they haven't done. They've been my daddy for years, but they've never won a Super Bowl, so I can still hold on to that. I got more Super Bowls than San Fran does in the last couple decades. So, no, outside of that, I think we're going to get some terrific football. Shout out Stooley for coming in and talking some basketball. We went about an hour 30. That's what I was kind of hoping to do. We got 30 minutes to go get your bets in for college basketball now. And then we've got football that'll start in about, we got to wait 3.5 hours for football. But we got time. Go get your bets in. Appreciate all of you for tuning in as always. And we'll talk to you next week, man. We got Super Bowl. Oh, next week, by the way. Like I said, Hoop Drunk's going to start on Thursday. We are going to have a show. I got to figure out, we might split it, talk totals and everything, like total spread this week, props next week. I don't know. I got to see what Joey's up to. He's been busy. So we'll figure it out regardless. Let's see who is going to be in the Super Bowl. Gentlemen, we have 3 football games left. Very sad. Appreciate you for listening. Okay, now.